How's it going, everybody, and welcome to another installment of YouTube's Ask Me Anything. Today is one of those days where I went on a walk earlier and the wind was blowing really, really bad. So my hair is going that direction. So I threw a hat on. So I also, there was a couple of comments here left by our friend J.K. Rowell. So I am strapped into one of many guitars that I happen to own. So I was going to answer some of these questions and go through some of them and try to have a little bit of fun with today's Ask Me Anything. Maybe it, I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. The F bar chord must be the equivalent of the service provider for you in Cisco because it's hard to play. Actually, it's not that bad. There are much harder chords to play, and I will flip over here to a different view. So, for those of you that are interested, there are chords that you can play on the guitar. So, there's 7, if I'm not mistaken, and you've got major, which means that they sound fuller, and then you've got minor chords, which sound are not as full. So the chord that you happen to be mentioning is the F bar chord. So the E in guitar is, and I'll turn the volume up here a little bit. Actually, let me flip that over to, I have an effects pedal underneath me, so I have a Korg effects processor, so that is the E chord, right? So your top string is open and your bottom 2 are open. Well, the bar chord, so that's E, and then if you wanted to play, move up 1 here, so you're bringing, so instead of these, the E string, the B and the E being open, you would actually cover them. So you would bar with the index finger, and you would use your ring finger and your pinky finger on this A and D string, and you put your middle finger on the G string, and it would be, that is the F bar chord. It's actually not that hard to play. So if I was to, I know the camera doesn't do me any justice here, but, and then it's just about rhythm, figuring out what your picking tempo is going to be, and then what the bass player's playing at, what your drummer's playing at, things like that. So that is the bar chord. So I've been playing guitar since I was a teenager, but it's been off and on. I've only recently gotten back into it a little bit, so I would never consider myself very good at it. I like to play riffs per se, meaning that if I hear a cool guitar lick in a song, I'll probably want to go learn how to play that. So an example of that would be something like, you've got your, for example, Nirvana, Come As You Are. See, I can't even play with them. It's a pretty easy lick to play. That wasn't the full thing. I was about halfway through. So it's actually, simple stuff like that is easy to play. But you get more complicated, I like to play stuff that I grew up on. I'm a big fan of The Offspring. So, for example, and to get to your next question, what are the top 5 songs that you play great on guitar? Instead of answering this, actually, that was the question. What are the top 5 songs you play great on guitar? How about we change it up a little bit, and I'm going to play a couple of riffs that I want you to listen to what I'm playing. Hopefully the audio comes out clear in the video. I'll try to play this. I'll play it after I'm done recording and see if it comes out correctly. And if it does, then you let me know what you think I played. So we'll play more of a, can you guess this song based off of what I'm playing. So now I'm not going to play the full song. It'll be, a couple of riffs from a particular couple songs, and you'll be the one to tell me whether or not you recognize it. So, let's go. See, I've screwed stuff up when I'm trying to play, so it's. Wait. I can't remember how to play that part. If you recognize any of that stuff, let me know. Now here's a little bit older, probably back when I was a kid, like real little. All right. So that's just a couple of riffs that I'll throw out there. Now, do I need a lot of work on them? Absolutely. Am I putting myself out there a little bit and doing some stuff I normally don't do? Yes. So don't be too critical on me in the playing style. So let me go ahead and flip back over here to the other scene. So what is your strategy for having patience to go really deep in one topic and wanting to move on to another? Well, so in those situations, what I do is actually really simple. If I am getting to the point where I feel like I need to move on, I do it. I will start digging into the high levels of another piece. Maybe my brain needs a break and I need to move on. So it's one of those things where you need to be cognizant of what you need. So whether it's just you're in the weeds on a particular topic, or so like I'm learning segment routing right now, and it's one of those things where as time goes on, I need to spend a little bit more time on it. So I'm reading the documentation, watching videos, labbing it. So I'm doing everything I can do to try to get myself where I need to be. Really great news about taking care of your health. Stay healthy and wish you the best. Appreciate that. So I definitely like working out again. I remember commenting on that. So yeah, it's good stuff. Tell us about your barbecue fascination. What is your favorite way to cook a barbecue, or how long does it to be processed? Any flavors you're trying mixing together? Added little bits of alcohol for a bittersweet taste on it. So I personally like to. There's a couple of dogs having a barking competition in my backyard. Anyway, so when it comes down to barbecue, there's a lot. I mean, you've got Texas barbecue, you've got Kansas City barbecue, you've got Carolina barbecue. So I tend to go with Texas barbecue. I watched a master class from Aaron Franklin, who happens to be the owner of Franklin Barbecue, who is well known for being like he's big on brisket. I mean, Texas barbecue. If you're not selling brisket, you're not really Texas barbecue. I like watching all that type of stuff. Being able to convert what would normally be a not so great cut of meat into some of the best tasting barbecue you've ever made. And barbecue, it's actually funny. Up here in the not the Pacific Northwest, in the upper Midwest, barbecue is not that big. People think that if you cook up hamburger and add a little bit of Taco Bell seasoning to it and throw a little bit of barbecue sauce in, boom, you are now a barbecue person. And that is not the case. Barbecue is, from what I've heard from overseas, is the grill you're cooking on. That's your barbecue. Where barbecue, what I'm referring to, is how the food is cooked. So, and in my opinion, if you have to put sauce on your finished meat, you screwed up in your cook. So, I enjoy doing that. Matter of fact, this past weekend I cooked a pork shoulder, and I cooked the flat of a brisket. So a brisket's got two muscles. You have the flat and you have the point. And in between those two muscles, it's technically two muscles in one cut of meat. and in between those you have a big layer of fat called the decal. And the goal with cooking a brisket, you have typically referred to the flat as the lean and the point as the moist. So if you go to a barbecue joint, it's like, do you want the moist or the lean or the moist? If you say the lean, you're going to get the flat. If you say the moist, you're going to get the point, because there's more fat in the point than there is in the lean. So it's one of those things where you just have to understand the terminology of what you're getting. I am a big proponent of barbecue, always have been, and I like the concept of low and slow. I have a Traeger pellet grill in my backyard. I have an Ironwood 885 that I've had now for probably, has it been 2 years now? Yeah, probably 2 years. I really enjoy it. I'm a pellet grill kind of guy. You won't catch me with I call it a stick burner or an offset smoker. I just don't have the time or the patience to deal with those. So it's one of those things where I really enjoy doing it. And it depends on what type of meat you're cooking will determine your cook time. So, for example, if you cook a small piece of meat like a brisket, like the flat of a brisket, you can actually cut it down yourself if you want to, or you can buy it pre-done. You're just going to pay a little bit more because it takes more knife work to pull the decal out. So I cooked one, and I got up at Saturday. I got up at 6 to get them on the smoker. So I got them seasoned on the smoker. They were on by 6:30 once I got the smoker going, and everything good to go there. And I didn't pull them off until 6 o'clock. So they were on for a full 12 hours. So, and it was low and slow. Get them up to temperature. And the key thing is cooking them long enough to where any of the fibers inside the meat that would be like typically make it tight and chewy have to be cooked for a longer period of time for those fibers to be broken down. I'm probably using the wrong term. If fiber is probably not the right word, but the actual term escapes me at the moment. But I really enjoy barbecue. I'm starting to dabble into sides like smoked mac and cheese and coleslaw and pickled onions and things like that, so that my long-term goal, once I have gotten both of my kids, well, my youngest is 14, he'll be 15 here soon. Once he's done with high school, my long-term goal is to open up whether it's a food trailer or a food truck. I want to get into barbecue and start doing that as a side gig. And because if you were going to ask me what my passion is, that's one of them. I enjoy doing it, and I always get really, really good reviews on the food that I cook. So now, granted, it's a very small amount of folks. We're talking 10 or 15 people think that the food that I make when I smoke is really good. So, but it's consistent. So I actually enjoy doing that. And so what do they tell you? That if you enjoy something, you never really work. So that's my goal. So yeah, I've never tried alcohol for a bittersweet taste. I'll have to look into that. But I'm a big fan of mixing spices together to make different types of rubs. I like a little bit of heat every once in a while, so I have no problem adding in like paprika or chili powder, things like that to make things a little more spicy. But yeah, it's good stuff. I enjoy doing it. When I started studying for CCNA, I studied from lecture videos only. Soon I realized that disaster that it was. I had no idea of what the book content was and the depth of the book. Soon I realized this from interviews. Many fresh graduates and new entries do this mistake. What do you think should be the steps for studying for CCNA and the time window? Actually, funny you should bring that up. So, I'm going to actually pause real quick. So my opinion on that is this. If you're starting off with CCNA and you want to get into it, the first thing you should do is, let me pull up this guy here. Go to certifications. First thing you should do is pull up the exam you're going after. Very first thing you should do. and then you should look at exam topics, and you should be able to, no thank you, go through all these topics, and you should know them inside and out. That's what you should start off with. Now, I've covered a lot of this on my YouTube channel and how you would go through and do all these things and stuff like that. I definitely think this is a very, very important process, or part of the beginning pieces of how you work with CCNA and IP services, and you go through all the details of that. And then you go security, and then automation and programmability. You all know my opinion on programmability and automation, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But you should be reading up the documentation. I would read through the if you don't know where to start in your CCNA, the best thing I can tell you to do would be to grab a hardware platform. I would go to Cisco's website, and then if we go to, we'll start off products and services, we'll look at networking, and we'll say all networking products, and we come down here. Now, I didn't look this up ahead of time, but if we look at switches, explore switching, and we look at, for right now, this is what we need to do. We need to look at, so 93, actually let's look at 9200. That's an access switch. So what I would do is I would look through here and read up on what the platform does, and hopefully at the bottom it doesn't have what I was looking for. Okay, so what you can do, you can go to support, you can go to all product support, and what I would do is I would grab switches and the 9200, because that's what a lot of people are going to get access to when they go to work for most companies. Is I would come down here to dot configuration, and I would look at the, that's not what I was looking for, system messages, troubleshooting, all types of documentation for this. I'm not looking for software configuration guide. So I would say grab one of these versions of code. So for example, I would click right here on this guy. This is how this is the, oh, it's not going to do what I want it to do. I might have to go older. Let's go 1610. Using the switch, using the, okay, that is not programmability guide. Okay, Fuji, configuring the switch using the web user interface. Okay, this is not what I wanted to try to, so this is one way to configure the switch, but not where I was going with that. So that was kind of anticlimactic. What does 1713 say? They're all the same. Okay. That might just be that particular platform. Let me go back in time here. So let's look at the 9300. We're going to look at configuration, and we're going to look at so we can click right here, software configuration guide. It's the same thing. So actually, let me go back over here. Let's change my tactic up a little bit. So let me go to 3750X or 3850. Well, 3850 I know will work too. We're going to go to configuration guide, and we're going to go software configuration guide for 1612. Okay, this is not going the direction I wanted it to go. Let's go 16.3. There we go. This is what I was looking for. Okay, now we're cooking with fire. So what I would do for anybody that's looking to learn how a particular platform works is I would go to the configuration guide for a particular platform. So 3850 for 16.3 code. And I would start reading through VLAN, wireless, security, routing, IP, multicast. I would just start reading through it to understand how to configure a lot of the stuff. So if we started off here in routing, right? BFD, MSDP, and unicast routing. So we'll start off on unicast routing. And you can expand the chapter contents, and it's going to break down how to configure an IP addressing, how to configure IP routing, routing assistance when IP routing is disabled, proxy ARP, default gateway, the ICMP router discovery protocol, or IRDP. So I would start reading through these so you would understand how they work. So this is going to give you, it's going to be not platform specific, but how this particular platform configures these things on the platform. Now, once you've done that, that's going to cover layer 2 and layer 3 on the switching. So that's where I would start, because it's going to cover a lot of what you need to be aware of for the day-to-day operations of the switch. Now, the reason why I would say start here, because it's going to cover a lot of these things for you. The wireless piece, you'd have to come back over here and scroll back up to the top, and you have to scroll over here on the left, and if you want to learn wireless, it's going to come over here, and you're going to start off at WLANs, and you're going to have to expand this out, and it's going to talk about what are the options for configuring wireless LANs on the 3850. Now, if you want to know more about wireless, you'd have to come back over here to, let me go over, pull this up in a new tab. We're going to go to product support, and we're going to go to wireless at the bottom here. And so if we go back to the CCNA exam where it says wireless, it's going to talk about, where did I see that? This would be access. So it's talking about wireless architectures and AP modes, WLAN components, AP, wireless LAN controller, access trunk, ports, lag, all that type of stuff. So on here, what you're going to want to look for is one of the newer platforms of the wireless LAN controller. So you could do the 9800, which is a newer version, or if I was you, I would start on something that's a bit dated. Now I have a 2504, so I'm going to click on this guy, and we're going to look at this is probably too old. Yeah, that's too old. Let's look at something a little bit newer, 3500. This should have configuration. So here we have wireless controller configuration for 8.5. So I click on this, and I would start reading through these things. This is going to help you understand what the differences are and how they come into play and stuff like that for the more the technical operations and things like that. Now, is this going to walk you through architecture? No. So you'd have to go back over here to solutions. Let me open this up in a. Can I not open this up in a new tab? Apparently not. Let me go back here. Open a new tab. And then I will click back over here. I'll scroll back up to the top, and we'll go here to solutions. And this may not be secure the enterprise. No, this is probably not going to be small, medium-sized business. No. I'm looking for products and services. This is not giving me what I want either. Networking, is it going to have wireless? No. Networking products. I'm looking for wireless specifically. Yeah, I don't see what I'm looking for. Wireless, explore wireless. So if you want to dig into wireless, you need to start digging into how you can work with it and the solutions around it. Explore all wireless solutions. And I'm looking for, so one of the things you're definitely going to want to know is architectures. So you could start reading through these just to give yourself a high-level overview, or you could Google Cisco wireless architecture. A very simple Google search will get you a lot of where you want to go. So if you're looking through the blueprint, you're like, okay, describe Cisco wireless architectures and AP modes. So let me grab this. Let me go ahead and open up a new tab and do this. Let's go. So it's going to, let me just click So ccnatutorials.in. Say, okay, that's a good first place. So I would start reading through. Well, it's a lot of stuff. This is a lot website, a lot of ads. So what you're going to do is you're just going to start reading through here to understand what the different capabilities are and how they come together. Because, well, here's a good example of how you have your Meraki switch security appliance and how you need to connect everything together and what all these different terms mean. So the deeper you dive into this, you have, let's see, network lessons. You would start reading through the different ways that you can do stuff and how they come together and stuff like this, because this is really what you need to understand. So another thing you could do here would be, a real quick one would be Cisco Validated Designs Wireless. And so you have Cisco Validated Designs. So you would click here. This is going to bring you to this web page. This is actually what I was looking for, Design Zone. And we're going to let that load. We're going to come down here. We have a bunch of different design guides. So you have networking, campus, wired, and wireless. So I'd click on here, wired and wireless. And here's easy to play with expert guidance. So let's look at the download the guide. So it's 2 megs. So if we look at this, what's it going to teach us? We have these design guides where it's going to help you understand what the capabilities are that you should be walking through and understanding. So, you have scale versus, your collapsed core versus your 3-tier architecture. And, so if you start going through, it's going to provide you a lot of really good understanding of how this stuff is going to come together, why you need 4 by 25 gig uplinks spread across 2 switches in the switch stack, why that's important, why you would want to do that for scalability and things like that. And when you get into these things, this is really where you want to spend your time, is understanding the reason why these designs have come out and the direction for them. Because if you don't, if you were to get into a design discussion and somebody was to ask you, well, why are you going that direction? You would need to be able to validate why you would go a particular direction. So, or explain your purpose for that. So, this is one of those things where, as time goes on, you just need to understand the concepts and things like that. And that's really what CCNA is all about, right? Is understanding the concepts of how all the stuff comes together and things like that. Because, I remember, I forget what exam I was taking, where it asked me about the border and control plane node. I didn't know the difference between an edge and a border because I had spent 0 time in software-defined access. So why BGP EVPN is used, and why, what 802.1x's job is to do. It's stable switchover versus non-stop forwarding versus supervisor redundancy, virtual stackwise virtual technology, and then stacks and stackwise, and the different platforms, and why you have what you have, and why they're there. So a lot of the time, this is what you need in order to dive in. So design fundamental campus LAN. So this is going to walk you through a lot of the things that you're going to need to do in order to get your 9800 wireless controller and all that type of stuff. So when we talk about the complexities of network design, yeah, there's a reason why it's so complicated, because you have to know the technical pieces first before you can go design a network. So hopefully that answers your question on that one, but that's where I would go. Does CML 2.7, which uses containers, lower the hardware resource requirements for larger labs? I would assume it does because of some of the enhancements, but I don't know yet. I remember when I was studying for CCNP RNS and started working at an ISP, I was very surprised to see the concept of L2 MPLS or L2 VPN by local carrier, where a layer 2 device would be used to connect the CE to a PE, and the concept of VLAN tagging between WANs was crazy to me, as well as ARP VRF, when all these concepts were applied to just lands according to my studies. I knew then that the ISP track was a completely evolved animal, and many of the concepts I learned in EIRS were sort of bent or broken in the SP track. What do you think of that? Also, can you talk about layer 2 carrier devices that ISPs use to connect CEs to PEs or POPs? So yeah, you can get into, you got your traditional 802.1q trunk, right, which is setting a single tag per VLAN, so you can mark the 802.1q header is added to your, is shimmed in, you get the 4-byte header that's added, so that you can tell the traffic that's leaving a switch going to another switch which MAC address and CAM table that traffic should be placed inside of. Where in the service provider world, you can do what they call Q and Q, or 802.1q inside of 802.1q. So you would have the concept of the provider's tag and then the customer tag. And the provider tag is the outer tag, the customer's tag is the inner tag. And you are able to traverse the backbone by doing things like that. Or if you're trying to deliver fiber, you would typically terminate your fiber into a Sienna or an ADVA, and that device would then be handed off to a router, and the router would be customer premise equipment but would be managed by the provider, and then you would plug your stuff into that equipment. So there's a lot that goes into that, and I will spend some time digging into this, but I'm at 30 minutes already, and I don't want to dive too much deeper into that. But there's a lot of concepts. For example, the VLAN is a broadcast domain. Well, so is a bridge. Bridge domain is the exact same thing. So where in routers typically use bridge domains, where switches use VLANs. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I will dive into those concepts when I get into the service provider track. What was the hardest BGP concept you've come across, whether route switch, SPEI, DC, BGP site of origin, community attribute? That wasn't very difficult to understand. It's a loop prevention mechanism. Hardest BGP concept, I would probably have to say VXLAN was probably the most complicated one, because it's similar to layer 3 VPN in some ways, but it's a combination of layer 2 and layer 3 at the exact same time. So but that being said, we're at a half hour now. I feel like I've answered quite a few questions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that we'll talk more. I will try to remember that one of the toughest topics in VLAN. I'll try to remember that one. Anyway, with that being said, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, please leave that in the comment section below. Remember, tomorrow evening, Wednesday, 7 Central, I'll be going live on the channel for everybody. If you want to join, feel free to do so. I'll be going live for about an hour. We'll talk about exam prep and note-taking and things like that. And then Friday, I have my members-only live stream where there's a Microsoft Teams link for that you guys will be able to log into if you are a member of the channel, or you've paid the $10 a month for Patreon. So, with that being said, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, leave that in the comment section below. I'll leave the links for the Patreon if you don't have a join button on any of the videos here on YouTube, as well as the sample workbook and the real workbook links in the description below. Until next time, guys, you guys have a good one. I'll catch all of you in the next one.